welcome everybody on YouTube who has joined the program. Of course, my WPKN listeners are here. I'm on the line via Zoom with Bob Curiano. Bob, how are you today?
Boy, you woke me up with that song, Doc. What are you kidding me? Over 20 years old, and that's like a monkey's sound alike.
I could tell by the look on your face you were not expecting that.
I was expecting something with the groove, but that's like, oh man, I wrote that on somebody, Lou Pearlman, who was the founder of the Backstreet Boys and all the stuff that I was involved in, said, right. I need more stuff that's more like the Monkees and the Beatles. And he had some bands, and that wasn't the one that got picked, but actually a song called Blue got picked and made it to number 2 with this band called Natural, which is gone now. They broke up. But yeah, you woke me up with that, Doc.
Well, I mean, I listened to all the music that I could find that you either produced yourself or you played with a band as the bass player or whatever. It's just to get an idea because, you know, my number one question in my mind is how did he end up with smooth jazz, contemporary jazz? Like, how did he end up here and with all of this rich musical background with the Backstreet Boys and other things? And, you know, that was my question because
well, that's a good question. And this is why I have an identity crisis, Doc. You know, I learned to play all different styles of music.
Right.
I was a little kid accordion player. Then I was a clarinet player playing continental music and classical music. But all this time, I'm listening to pop music. But I absorb it. I learn how to play it. I understand how to play a bossa nova, a rumba, and funky stuff. So if I get called to do something, thank you, Lord, I have diversity to do all these things. So how I end up in smooth jazz, and I always loved jazz. I consider jazz the high art form of it all. I really do. The ability to improvise and be harmonically rich and everything else, it's with jazz and smooth jazz.
Interesting. I mean, the song we're going to play at the end of the interview, Sunny and Warm, I love it. It takes me back to like 90s Rippingtons and that genre, Spyro Gyra, that type of feel
right.
Song. That's kind of how it felt to me when I listened to it. I really enjoyed that. You know, it's funny you mentioned an identity crisis because I am also a person who goes by dual identities. I'm Doc Hardy on the radio and I'm Tony Hardy in the corporate world. You had many names as well. Bob Nouveau, Sir Robert of Normandy. I said, this is a very colorful man I'm going to talk to. I appreciate Mr. Ed Tankus for bringing you to my attention. Shout out to
I was going to say that. Thank you, Ed Tankus. And I like to also thank Paula Atherton, the hardest working girl in show business, if you ask me.
And she told me to tell you that she said hello. She says hello. I'll see her in about 6 weeks as well. She's one of my favorites. So how did it all start? I mean, you what piqued your interest with music in the first place?
You know, when you listen to something you don't know, you get the chills. Not everybody gets the chills, by the way.
Right.
It's a unique thing, and I didn't understand why I was getting this feeling. I thought it was normal that everybody had it, but I was drawn to that, and it pulled me in. And I had some, I don't want to say a predisposition towards how to naturally absorb it, understand it, and play it without too much work. I didn't have to work too hard at it. It came easy to me. Thank you. And, you know, for that reason, I didn't practice enough because it came too easy.
Oh.
I didn't work really, really hard. I thought, good enough. And I went out and did gigs, you know, but it was a natural thing. I was born with it. I think I was blessed with it. And then it led me on this crazy lifestyle. I wonder what that blessing was. It was a double-edged sword, you know, that thing.
I mean, you had some very amazing stops along the way, Menk DeVille, Backstreet Boys. You got to have stories. Tell me, you know, a Backstreet Boys story. Of course, that jumps out. Most of my younger listeners, they hear Backstreet Boys, they know who they are. Tell us about the Backstreet Boys experience. And
Boy, that's a show.
shit.
That's a whole show. That thing.
Yeah, I'm reading one sentence here, and I can believe you from the story. I know a lot happened there, but can you share something with us that?
Well, I knew Lou Pearlman.
Okay.
I had a band in 1973. We were playing If You Don't Get It the First Time, Back Up and Try It Again. We were playing All the Sounds of Philadelphia, which you know very well. Philadelphia was a big town for music.
Yeah.
And this is early in 73. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Bad Luck, The Bump, The Hustle, The Walk. I mean, we were filling clubs with people in the urban area, New York. They were dancing. And he and his kids, buddies from Queens, would come to see us play. He goes, well, I like music too. Maybe we should get together. My cousin is Art Garfunkel. I didn't pay it much attention. But
are you serious? Your cousin's Art Garfunkel?
His cousin's Art Garfunkel, and that was his calling card. Like, okay. Come on.
Okay.
And he was this, nerdy little guy from Queens with they were awkward socially. And we got together. He wanted us to be the second coming of Simon and Garfunkel. But, along the way, he really didn't have the performance ability. We remained friends. He tried to promote me as a solo artist back then, but he didn't have connections. So we stayed in touch, but he never lost his motivation for music and turned into the manager guy who was trying to seek out artists. So he said, Bob, come down to Orlando. I found these kids, nice little kids. I go down there, and they really couldn't sing or dance well together, and I had 2 or 3 days to slap something together and give them a shot, a start. And that was the Backstreet Boys. And I did a demo. It's called Loverboy. You'll find it on the internet. It was pirated somehow after he got raided and ended up in jail. That's another story. But that's how they initially started showcasing with my song. And it never got signed because when Jive Records came in, they cleaned house, and I had no contract with Lou, just a handshake.
Right.
And you learn.
Yeah. Yes.
In this business, you really learn fast about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had Chris Jasper on the show a few times, and he's a lawyer now. He and his son are lawyers, and he said the reason they're lawyers is because of what happened to him in the music business. So I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just a guy who loved music and trusted friends.
Right.
Well,
yeah, this
is business now. I need another. That's what I needed along the way. A little bit guidance in the business side of what the music business is.
So you joined as a Blackmore's Night into 2000. Let's talk about that for a little bit. What kind of prompted that connection? And
but in between that here's another identity crisis. Mink DeVille and Willie DeVille. Now Doc Palmas wrote songs for him. He wrote a lot of Elvis songs, and he got me in BMI. I was with Willie DeVille. Then I got married. I quit the road. I'm playing a gig, and this woman who is his manager sees me and said, would you be interested in playing with Richie Blackmore? And I thought, well, Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple? I said, yeah, I might pick up my road boots again and see what that's about. And English guy with a good sense of humor, liked soccer and drinking beer and playing rock and roll. And first was Blackmore's Night. And 6 years with that, took a little break. He calls me back for Rainbow, which was the, resurrection of really how he made his name in heavy rock with Deep Purple and then Rainbow. And that was the last show was 2019, COVID hit, and that was the end of that. And I don't know if we're going to go back on the road, but that's that.
Okay. So COVID hit. How did and you come out of COVID with a jazz song? Is that when you decided to do jazz during COVID, or?
Well, I was doing jazz all along. Pickup gigs.
Right.
Not. I really didn't get immersed in the jazz circle totally. Mm-hmm. I did it for fun, and bands that incorporated the funky groove and jazz like Steely Dan and Spiral Drive. You mentioned these bands.
Yes. Yes.
That was really kind of where I was in my bones.
Right.
I had been writing pieces of music for library music, which is backup tracks for voiceovers and all that.
Right.
And I had this unfinished piece of music, 35 seconds long, which was the beginning of that song. And those tracks in the beginning of that song are 20 years old. So Paula introduces me to Neil Sapper. She said, "Oh, you should send him some stuff." I threw that in there as a joke, like, here's 35 seconds. He goes, "I like that one, but it's only 35 seconds long." Okay, I'll finish it. And the rest of the song was finished in January. And here we are now. So I do all these things, whatever sticks to the wall. I guess that's the one that came up in this recent batch. And so, it's funny. I get identified with the heavy metal world with Blackmore, and then with the punk world with DeVille, and now jazz. So, Doc, help me out, Doc.
Yeah, you're a very flexible and gifted musician, and it's funny that now that you explained the development of the song, it really explains to me how I felt, because I put it on and I literally felt like I was at Wolf Trap in Virginia in 1999, listening to Steely Dan play or Spyro Gyra or those groups, and that was the feeling. So it's funny that the music is that, in fact, that old, at least the introduction.
Well, the beginning of it started there. That I had to write the bridge, and the bridge for me was, well, it's a summer song, and to me that bridge is a throwback to like Brazil '66.
Mm-hmm.
It had this yada-da-ba-da-ba-ba thing to it, which was very Saint-Tropez 1965.
Yeah.
Well, I love that kind of style of pop music too. And for many years, instrumental music made the top pop charts. You don't hear it as much now, but Herb Alpert and all these were instrumental cuts that were in the top 10.
Yep. Yep, you're right, and I didn't realize that Paula Atherton was instrumental in you getting this thing developed as well, making a connection. That's awesome.
I'd known her for a long time. We did gigs together. We just mutual respect as musicians, and good people. She knew you have talent and a friend, and you just help somebody out, and no other agenda, and not it's rare to find that.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So you've had quite a career, and you've walked quite a path and done many varied things. I have a lot of different people listen to the program. A lot of them are unsigned musicians just getting started. If you could pass on some wisdom to people early in the business, what would you share with them from the things that you've learned?
Well, the business I grew up with is over. In fact, I don't understand what's going on now. I don't understand how it's changed in a way that how things are promoted. In the old days, you got signed. Nobody gets signed now, or even wants to get signed. They're out on their own, lost with a million people on the internet.
Right.
It's very difficult for me to figure out. And I said to Paula, "What are you doing to me at this age? I don't know what I'm doing now." I mean, it's when you got signed, a record label got behind you and promoted you, gave you advance money, did all this stuff that it just, I don't think it exists. They had A&R departments that would seek out and look for talent and then sign them. And it doesn't work that way anymore.
Right.
You have to record it, write it, perform it. And if you can even afford to do live gigs with a band, you're lucky. Because there's no ka-ching selling records. What's that? What's selling? There's no hard copy.
Right.
And it's the lament of everybody in publishing, from magazines, newspapers, and music, where they're selling a physical product, intellectual property. It's all free now. So the business side of it is very difficult.
Right. So then why do you do it?
I love it. See, that's what I'm left
And
with.
that's what I wanted to get to. Yeah.
Even though, it pisses me off the way it works
Right.
now.
Right. Yes.
I love to do it. So why should I stop? And I go out and play solo now, just hide and play, and people are happy. And this kind of interaction is what I do. I feel like it's more social work. I mean, to make people feel good, that's what music does.
Yep.
And never lose that. And, you're not doing it. You talk about money, but you're really doing it for the love of doing it and making people feel good.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. So the song is called "Sunny and Warm." I'll play it in a moment. Where do you go from here? What are you doing locally? Are you performing locally? Where can people see you? Let's talk about that.
You want to, maybe you can help me. What do I do? It's getting played on the radio. I see it showing.
After this interview, call Ed Tankus and tell him to start booking you places.
Well, I need this song. I guess I'm watching it to see what it's doing. It's only barely 2 months out.
Right.
And I never went through this process where I'm watching it, on internet radio, on terrestrial radio. And
Right.
I don't even know if Neil, brings these things to you guys. So I'm not sure how it gets played at PKN, but I see all these other stations, starting to play it, and it's slow. Who picks it up? I'm fighting all the old guys. They're not letting go. I mean, Lee Ritenour, Larry Carlton, George Benson. Hey, man, there's no room for you. It's like, it's hard.
I saw Lee Ritenour back in March down in D.C. He was hilarious. He's yeah. Listen, your music is amazing. I think you ought to just keep going. And
Well, for me to be on a playlist with those guys is thank you.
Yeah.
They're the real deal.
Yeah.
And to be there, even though, I'm in this little niche with smooth jazz, it's not a big place.
No.
And there are a lot of people, wanting in. I'm glad. And Neil Sapper has his circuit, and it works so far. If I'm already thinking, what do I do now? Follow it up. Ed Tankus says, well, you do a Christmas song now. We're getting, that's
There you go.
all right, Ed. Thanks. Ask Ed what I should be doing next. 'Cause I don't know. But in the meantime, I'll hide away in a wine bar here and play, or in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I'm busy just playing solo. I was always with bands, but now playing solo guitar, it's tricky. And there's nowhere to hide because it's just me. And you can't stop. And one saving grace is if I want to play, Que Sera Sera, and the drummer says, I don't want to play that. Well, I don't have that argument anymore. I play it.
That's fine. I'm Doc Hardy. I'm talking to Bob Curiano. He has a new song out. It's called "Sunny and Warm." It's a great jazz song. It's gonna make my WPKN song of the week, and maybe other DJs at WPKN will play it as well.
I appreciate that.
Listen, it's great talking to you. I only got about 5 minutes left on my program, so I'm gonna play a song, and hopefully I will catch you somewhere performing live here in Connecticut.
You got my contact. The drink's on me.
I got it. Awesome. Bob, thank you so much for joining the Doc Hardy Show this morning, and the best of luck as you explore the world of jazz.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Folks, this is called Sunny and Warm. I'm the doctor. This is WPKN.